This video is probably going to get me a little bit of trouble. Here are all the things I hate about the Ducati 899. First of all, brand new, this bike was expensive and it was overpriced for the performance of this bike. First thing I hate about this bike is these things are very slippery, even more so when wet, but doesn't matter, always slippery. The shock rubs on your leg when you got your feet down in a stoplight. Sometimes it rubs when you're riding. The heat that this thing throws off is much better than other Ducatis I've owned in the past, but still sucks and unacceptable for a 2014 model. This bike does not come with a clear coat. I had to have this professionally ceramic coated, and that basically alleviated the need for a clear coat, I would think. But still, no clear coat for the amount of money. That's ridiculous. 899, the mirrors actually move, so that's a good thing. Another thing I really dislike about this bike is I know they're trying to keep it light and everything, but this is flimsy. And the way that everything goes together in here with little grommets, they're all crap. So every time you take this apart, might as well replace all the grommets. To remove this, there's a couple of hooks in here, and those hooks are brittle. And if you don't do it right, it'll definitely break. The other thing I hate about the 899, it's impossible to set the chain tension correctly. It's impossible to read these markings. They're not equal on either side. That's a pain in the ass, and it's unacceptable. The other thing about the 899 versus the what is it, 959 or whatever, is the clutch cover is one big large piece that goes all the way through. So if the clutch goes, you have to remove this whole cover to replace it. Another thing that's not good about the 899, these have to be moved absolutely against this bleeder valve. If they don't, they rub against the fairing and the top of the brake reservoir. Same thing for the clutch reservoir. Another thing, these are prone to leak. These hoses right here, as you can tell, I replaced them with aftermarket ones. I don't know what they're made out of. The other thing is these brakes, for the amount of money you spend on this bike, they say Brembo, and you got a Brembo Master, they are absolutely terrible. It's unacceptable. They are really, really bad. My GSXRs, even mid-2000 GSXRs I've had with the Takiko brakes, were significantly better. It's geared a little too high. Not a big deal. You can change that. The kickstand is obviously bolted to the engine, so you really don't want to put too much weight on this kickstand. Even though it's a solid unit, it's still bolted to the engine. You could have a problem. The other thing is to get to the front spark plug, you have to remove the radiators. I couldn't get to it without removing the radiators, and that's a pain in the butt. To get to the rear spark plug, much easier, removing the seat and the tank, and you're in there. The other thing too is this bike comes with a really weird tire size. It's a 180/60. There's not many options in 180/60, and you can't run a different size tire because you can't configure or calibrate the electronics. You have to run this tire or you're going to have issues with your traction control. It's not going to be calibrated correctly. The other thing is that the electronic suite, even though it's older, not too horrible, but much better stuff out there. Engine braking, even with no engine braking on, is still way too much, and it's probably more so the characteristics of the V-twin, but it's really annoying. It's tough to keep the bike running smooth all the time. The other thing I can't stand about this bike is its power band. It makes no sense. You have no low end, you have no mid-range, and then right when you get to about 7,000 to right about 10.5, which is a really narrow power band, is really when it starts to move. And I gotta tell you, that doesn't work for me. The bike is not too heavy, the wheels are nice, the quality overall of the bike is very nice. It is extremely loud. This is a Euro 3 bike. So the cans are underneath and they're pretty loud. Other than that, it's not the worst bike in the world. It's a pretty bike. It's very comfortable to sit on. The seat height's actually low compared to other super bikes that I've ridden. And because it's narrow, it's easy to put your feet down if you're shorter in nature. There's a lot of nice stuff about the suspension. The front show forks are very easy to adjust, and the rear sack shock's really, really good. The other thing, the quick shifter, extremely rough. It makes no sense. It's just extremely rough. And because this doesn't have a slipper clutch, if you don't downshift absolutely perfectly, you're going to feel it. You're going to have rear tire chatter, so on and so forth, and that's not really good. Other than that, oh, one last thing. This is absolutely unacceptable. This is Ducati's factory tail tidy. The way this is held in is this is a rubber grommet and two pieces of plastic are pressed together like this. And as soon as you walk by it and brush it and give it a good pull, it's over. It's compromised. And this is how it is. Now it's going to just sit there and shake like that. And that's absolutely ridiculous. This is the other side. This is how it's supposed to be. This is still too much play. It's ridiculous. Anyway, if you're considering an 899, I got to tell you personally, get a GSX R600, get an R6, get a 750. Yeah, this will make a little bit more peak power on a dynamometer, but I tell you what, as far as rideability, reliability, fun factor, ease to work on, availability of parts, and so on and so forth, the 899 is not a buy over any of those Japanese counterparts. And I've owned 7 Ducatis, and I absolutely love the brand, and I love these bikes. This particular one, I am not impressed with. Tonight is my last night with it. Tomorrow, the new owner comes to pick it up, and it's gone. Thanks for checking out my YouTube video. I'm sorry if you have one of these bikes and you love it. And the reality is, just don't ever ride any other bike, because in isolation, I bet this bike is wonderful. But this is my other bike that I ride, so yeah, I'm not impressed.